Hello, it's Dr. Kortni Alston of the Kourting Happiness podcast. Have you checked out our happiness library? It's a carefully curated library with books that I highly recommend that are a must for your happiness library. Go to drkortnialston.com/happiness library. That's drkortnialston.com/happiness library. The authors you will hear on the podcast can also be found in our happiness library. You can also purchase their books on our site. On top of that, your purchase also helps this podcast and the mission of Kourting Happiness. Let's spread happiness and the word. Check out books on the Kourting Happiness library. It will not only change your life, but it can also help you with your next chapter too. Let's get back to the podcast. Welcome to the Kourting Happiness podcast. This is a space where self-care becomes part of your day. A space where you learn evidence-based strategies to help your life, share it with those you love, and cultivate well-being at work. I'm your host, Dr. Kortni Alston. I'm a former news director, television reporter turned happiness scholar, TEDx speaker, and transformational trainer. I also understand hardships. While working my dream job in television, I lived a nightmare, suddenly becoming a young widow after 86 days of marriage. I became committed to learning more about resilience, healing, and happiness. This is how I discovered my area of research, which is positive psychology. Now I'm living my calling of training individuals and organizations on happiness. And my new chapter begins with being happily engaged. The Kourting and Kourting Happiness is about a true courtship. I like to say commitment with happiness. The K in Kourting stands for the vulnerability of sharing my story, inspirational interviews with phenomenal people, the infusion of positive psychology, and so much more. You'll learn how to commit to your well-being one episode at a time. I hope you subscribe and share. So, are you ready? Let's get started. Welcome to episode 57. I'm Dr. Kortni Alston. Thank you so much for listening. I'm so happy that you're here, especially to hear this.
It's an opportunity for a silent exchange with my fellow man. It's an opportunity for me to show you I see you. Me being a women's empowerment speaker, do you know how many women I run into and their thing is, I just want to be seen? A smile between me and you lets you know, I see you, woman. I see you. Not the beauty that society wants to say, not all of your, ooh, I'm so strong, I could take care of 5 kids and cook dinner with them on my back. No, I see you, your beautiful eyes, your pretty smile, the way you stand, how you carry yourself. I see you. I get that exchange in a smile.
That's Shelley Meche'tte. She is a speaker, life coach, and author of 70 Days of Happy. Life is better when you smile. And you can actually hear Shelley smile during her time on the Kourting Happiness podcast. She talks about why you should be thankful for your job, even if you're ready to jump ship, and the importance of sharing 3 simple words with yourself. We even talk about some shows that helps us unwind. So this is the perfect episode to, again, grab your well-being journal because Shelley will help you get unstuck and become unstoppable. Let's dive in. Shelley Meche'tte. Shelley, yes. I am so excited about you being here. And
I am excited.
And it's so interesting. I'm sitting here looking at Shelley, and she is smiling so big as a fellow. Can I say like a fellow smile big?
Yeah, that I like that. I like that.
I'm still trying to figure out how to brand it because
I told you we're kindred.
Exactly. I love it. I love it. Her energy is amazing. Shelley is amazing, and she is an incredible author, an incredible coach, and a phenomenal woman. And I'm looking forward to speaking with her today. She has a book that's really, I love the name, 70 Days of Happy. And we're going to talk more and more about her book. And I'm so curious, because first I'm drawn to the title because being a happiness scholar, I happen to be drawn to all things as relates to,
All things
positive
happy.
psychology and yes, and happiness and well-being. But when I saw it, and then when I had a chance to go through your book, what I really loved is, the meaning and the concepts that I look forward to talking about. But I'm so curious in terms of how did you come up with 70 days of happy?
It's actually really so basic. I wish I had like this like grand story, but when I tell you, I did a challenge some years ago before I wrote the book, and it was a 90-day challenge. And that challenge was say something positive every day. No matter what your day is, do your best not to let what's here in the mind be voiced through the mouth. Not that we don't feel it, not that we don't have these issues, but grab it, take hold of that thought before you bring it out. And so I said, okay, I'm going to try this for 90 days. I'm generally a happy person, so I wasn't really worried about it. But as I did the challenge, I was like, oh, wow, there are a couple of times, I'm screaming at the remote. Let's see, I'm mad because you're not moving quick enough. The grocery store is angering me. So I was like, oh, okay. Oh, maybe we have something here. And from that challenge, I said after those 90 days, I was like, you know what? You're kind of right. When you're more conscious of these things and you literally go, oh, yep, I'm having a bad day, but I'm gonna rewind and I'm gonna do something different. Doesn't mean my day is not bad. Doesn't mean I'm not still pissed off. What it means is that I'm gonna own it. I'm gonna take it in. I'm gonna reroute it and try to position myself differently. And so when I did that, I said, I'm going to jot these things down that I learned. I said, because sometimes we forget that our real joy and peace and all that, it's in the little things. We out here trying to get big boats and houses. And what you need to do is take 10 minutes and watch I Love Lucy and relax.
I love this, and the fact that you're talking about embracing the little things. And I love Lucy, by the way.
Me
and
too, so my favorite show.
It's like I Love Lucy. I have fond memories of I Love Lucy as a kid.
Just watched it this morning, but anyway.
I mean, I love her. I've been back on a designing women kick. I can't help but
designing women.
Because of Hacks with Jean Smart, I go, I gotta revisit designing women. And so, but it's those, as you mentioned, as we're sitting here talking about our favorite show, we probably could talk about that all day, right? But and how we're laughing about it and we're smiling about it, but it's also bringing us joy. It's those, as you mentioned, it's those little things. And so they can be so powerful. So what do you say to an individual who are saying, well, I don't know, that sounds kind of challenging to me in regards to joy?
I say, you're right. I don't take that away from you. See, here's the problem with us. What we want to do is we want to be toxic happy. We want toxic positivity without understanding that in order to walk in that positive, we have to see that there is a negative. So it doesn't make sense. So you're right. It's challenging for me not to give in when I want something a certain way. It's challenging if you make me mad not to slap you. That doesn't mean I'm going to. I mean, let's just be real. That's a challenge.
Yeah.
I want you to meet my palm. But I go through it in my head and I go, oh, that's not good, Shelley. These are the consequences that can happen.
That wouldn't be good.
That wouldn't be good. So you are absolutely right. Joy could be a challenge. It could be something you haven't seen. It could be something you haven't practiced. You could come from a background of people who are angry. Everyone doesn't have the same tools and mechanisms to work with. So what I say is, don't try to redo and make it seem like, oh, joy is not a problem. No, for you, it is a problem. So what we do is we start there and say, what brings you joy? There's something in your life that brings you joy. I don't care if it's picking your eyelashes. You might not want to do that, but if that brings you joy, let's start there. What's the feeling that you get in that? And why is that something that brings you that joy? Because joy is how we react because of our feeling towards something. So let's find that feeling. and let's focus in on that so that you can have authentic happiness and not outer happiness, because you need something within.
Yeah, well, it's interesting you say that because one of the things I love about positive psychology is when we talk about meaning and the value of things being truly meaningful. And, I wrote an article for CNN a few years ago on International Day of Happiness, and it talked about making your happy hour right now. And part of that article talked about the value of how you can kind of create those happy moments. But
Absolutely.
it also mentioned how it's some people may think, well, I'll be happier when I get this, or I'll be happier when I maybe get that, or whatever the case may be, right? Without me going through certain specifics, because I want our listeners to kind of visualize if they happen to fit in this dynamic. But it's also thinking about those positive emotions, things that are very meaningful, that you're
Absolutely.
not thinking about the price tag on thing,
Right.
or if you're spending money, more on experiences than maybe on things, right? And so one of the things that I treasure about what you're saying, and then also your book, is that, and it's so funny because when Shelley and I connected, I love recording my podcast on Zoom, partly because I love seeing people. I love seeing the people that I'm interviewing. I love talking to you. I love seeing the activity that's going on in the home. I love all of it. I love all of it. And it's so interesting. As soon as Shelley logged in and I admitted her in, I saw this incredible smile. And
Oh,
it speaks to so much of your book, because your book talks about, life is better when you smile. How,
absolutely.
how did that come about?
Absolutely.
Besides the obvious of your smile.
Yeah. Well, here's the funny thing.
Yeah.
Let's flip that. If you're not smiling, what's the joy in your frown? What's the joy in your unhappiness? What's the joy in your bitterness? What's the joy in your brokenness? I'm going to go out on a limb and say there isn't any. There isn't any. But when I'm able to give a smile, not only do I replenish me, but I have the ability to turn your life and your world in exactly one moment. I don't know what you're going through. I don't know if you prayed and said, Lord, if one more thing happens today, I'm done. I'm done. How do I know that my smile didn't give you that one bit of encouragement to say, I think I can do this one more time? So the smile it doesn't just give to me. What it does is it allows me to be an extension to you and those around me and my fellow man. And we connect on some level when we exchange smiles with one another. And you're just not going to tell me that that's not better.
It's interesting that you say that, the value of a smile, because I just as Shelley is talking, I said, "Oh my gosh, you just reminded me of something." As think something that's resonated with me, and it's I posted before our meeting. In between, I've had quite a few interviews today that have been so powerful, and I love every minute of it. But I just posted this on my Facebook page, and it came from Action for Happiness, which, guys, if you're not following Action for Happiness, it is a wonderful, wonderful organization to follow across social media. They provide so much great information. They also have a great happiness calendar that you can catch every month. Yeah, it's really powerful. Different daily
Oh,
acts that you can do. And
that
so
sounds awesome.
they are amazing. And what I love is that they posted something a moment ago that I reposted, and it speaks to what Shelley is saying. And it says, some stranger somewhere remembers you because you were kind to them. Wow. Some stranger, right?
Yes.
Because we're going through our life and they remember you because you were kind to them. And what better way to showcase your smile is what what you're sharing in terms of your smile.
Yes. Yes. It's an opportunity for a silent exchange with my fellow man. It's an opportunity for me to show you I see you. Me being a women's empowerment speaker, do you know how many women I run into and their thing is, I just want to be seen? A smile between me and you lets you know, I see you, woman. I see you. not the beauty that society wants to say, not all of your, ooh, I'm so strong, I could take care of 5 kids and cook dinner with them on my back. No, I see you, your beautiful eyes, your pretty smile, the way you stand, how you carry yourself. I see you. I get that exchange in a smile.
I love that. The power of the smile, right?
Yes.
It is so beautiful. And it's interesting that you say that because I'm one of those individuals. I'm known for my smile. Like, that's one of the things that people always share about me. Like, oh gosh, she smiles so big. And my
And
dad,
it's beautiful.
thank you. And my dad has an amazing smile. And so when I smile, I see my father, and then my mother passed away. My parents were together almost 50 years. And my mother passed away in 2016. And it's interesting, when I smile, I see her too. And I
Wow.
love the fact that you're talking about the value of being seen, because that is
Yes.
so important in terms, of belonging. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that you talk about in your book is the value of being thankful. And it's interesting to say
Absolutely.
that because it's one of the things I talk about quite a bit on the podcast. Because because in positive psychology, gratitude, it's shared. And there's an amazing scholar called Dr. Robert Evans who is one of the leading scholars as it relates to gratitude, and can share all of the psychological benefits in terms of that. It helps reduce
Mm-hmm.
our stress. It can help in terms of with our sleep, believe it or not. There's so many
Wow. I believe
dynamics.
that.
Yeah, scientific is, and it's so powerful. But what the interesting part, what I love so much about what you shared is that, Shelley, you talked about being thankful for your job.
Absolutely.
Now tell us the value. So especially for some of us that are like, you know what, Shelley, I am trying to divorce my job. Like I don't know. Okay, I'm thankful because I guess I have it, right?
Right.
But it's
Right.
like I don't know, Shelley. I'm not that. I don't know. So what do you say to that individual that is like
That is so
saying,
funny
like,
because
well, how do I be grateful?
the reason I put that chapter in there is because I hated my job. Can I just be real?
Oh my goodness.
The reason that that's in there is because, like, my gosh, I have to go here again, Jesus. But what I learned is that my job was so much more than me walking in there daily. Yes,
Wow.
the atmosphere I may not have enjoyed, but the resource that you provided for me, I did. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to be able to do other things. My job was my resource for that. My children needed to eat. I needed a roof over my head. You were my resource for that. And I was thankful to God that I was in a position to have a resource that could lead me out, because I was trying to get out, y'all. I was trying to get out, but I had a resource to help lead me to getting out. So instead of me going in every day, like, y'all better not say nah to me. Okay. Just give me the assignment. Instead, I went in saying, wow, thank you so much that I have this resource, because in 10 months, because of this resource, I can walk away and do what I really feel that I've been purposed for. Thank you so much. I have a 2-year-old who I don't have to spend a lot of money on daycare, because the resource here allots for my husband to be home for, part of the day, for me to be home for part of the day. Thank you. The resource provides the lifestyle that I'm currently in and walking towards. And for that, I can be thankful.
I love that you shared that in terms of a resource, because as Lisa Nichols,
Oh,
who, yeah, Jack Canfield, and who is just an incredible being. She talks about how when she was on the job and how she would kind of leverage it to fund her dreams.
yes,
And so I love how you're talking about it as this powerful resource in terms of being able to fuel where you're going next,
absolutely.
opposed to depleting you, right? It can fuel
Exactly.
you opposed to deplete you, depending on how you see it.
Exactly.
And it's interesting that you meant that we're talking about that, because I know that, mindsets are very important, or, in terms of your book. You talked about the value of positive words.
Oh,
And it's interesting because we live in a day and age where, we can go online, and sometimes, maybe once or twice, you might see you might see a negative word or two. I'm being very sarcastic.
Or a lot.
Or a lot, like it may flood it, right? All at once. You're like, whoa, wait a minute. And it can be challenging, right? To be able to kind of
Yes.
speak levels of positivity to you. Or if you're dealing with imposter syndrome and you're like, oh no, why me? Why am I the person to share this message?
Absolutely.
So what do you tell an individual who is listening right now, right? Or what have you told an individual in the past? But for those of listeners that are listening right now are saying, you know what? Yeah, it's kind of challenging sometimes to be able to speak positivity. So what would you recommend in terms of kind of shifting that narrative for them?
I think that a lot of times we get caught up in positive words that are meaningless to us. Now, don't everybody start throwing your Pepsi and stuff at me. Hear me out. There's nothing wrong with generalization. There's nothing wrong with me waking up saying, I'm worthy, I'm powerful, I'm beautiful. All of those things are great. But if you don't feel worthy, if you don't feel powerful, if you don't feel beautiful, how do those words help you? I know that we talk about, fake it till you make it, and you keep on saying it until you believe it. But for me personally, that didn't work. What I had to do is, because I found myself in the mirror boohoo crying because I didn't like the woman looking at me, and I didn't know what it was about her that was great. What's special? What's this? What's that? And so all those cute power words didn't work for me because I didn't feel like those things at that time. And so what I had to do is I had to sit in that mirror for what seemed like an eternity and boohoo cry until I found something that meant something to me, that was going to empower me. And that was my smile. I looked at myself and I said, boo, them teeth is cute. And I like when you smile. You brighten my day when you smile. But that was true for me and to me. So positive words became personal words. And that's what began to chip at the woman. I was able to stand on it. And so when you come with the negativity, I'm like, that could be true. It could not be true. But guess what? I got a pretty smile. Cheese.
So let's talk about that. Yeah, so let's talk about that, right? Let's talk about the fact that you said personal words, right? And kind of really having it kind of empower you in terms of positivity. And so I'm curious about these personal words, because clearly when you write a book, you're showcasing, levels of yourself and
Yes.
really tidbits of who you are, and then showcasing them to the world. I'm curious in terms of what were those words for yourself in terms of your personal why of creating this book and then creating it for your community.
Well, my personal thing, like I said, was me finding that one thing that I loved about myself. And like I said, my community is women, and my community is women who haven't found that one thing. And so for me, it was important for me to let them know, number one, I see you. Number two, I understand you. And number three, in order for us at any time to get to the women that we've been created to be, we're going to have to turn it inward. Because I'm not even going to seek God's face to find out what is my purpose if I never believe within that I have one. If I never believe in my own happiness, in my own worth, in something that means something to me, I'm never going to go outward. I'm never going to move. I'm never going to walk. I know that experience. I know that woman. That woman is me. And I felt, I want you to be free. I want you to bust loose. I want you authentically happy. I want you living purposefully. And in order to do that, We got to look at the woman in the mirror, and we're going to have to shake down some things in her so we could build up who she really was created to be.
I love that, in terms of really looking at yourself, right? In terms of the mirror, and you're talking about the women that are a part of your community and what that may look like for them, and really speaking to them, and speaking that positivity in terms of, what they need to hear and to be empowered and to really be transformed. So, as a scholar, part of my area of research is working in meaningful work. And actually, one of my mentors, who was a part of my dissertation committee, has written an incredible book of dealing with calling and meaningful work. And one of the things that I really treasure about the framework is expressing one's full potential. How does your work, in terms of your book and community, help you express your full potential in this world?
Oh my goodness, that is such a huge question. We're going to just condense it. And the way it helps me do that is by living my authentic self and being an example in my community of a woman who came from not loving who she is, not loving anything about, all the way down to just the color of my skin. It took years for me just to love my dark skin, because it had been embedded in me for so long that I had no reason to love it. And with that dark skin came along shame. And you ought to just accept anything in your life because, anything for you is a step up, because, with your color, you don't deserve anything. These are things that were embedded in my ear, and not at home. Not at home. But even with my mom, even when she would say certain things, that it wasn't to belittle me, but it was just the things that she had grown up with. I'll never forget, we were talking about slavery, and I didn't understand at the time, slaves that were outside, slaves that were inside. And my mentality was, well, who would stay outside if you could be inside? And so I said to her, well, if I were a slave, I'd definitely be inside, because it doesn't make sense. And I will never forget, my mother looked at me and she said, no, you're too dark to be inside. Did she mean anything by it? Absolutely not. But the connotation at that moment, that's one of my earliest memories of, there's something wrong with you. And what she was giving me was truth, fact, but without the history, without the reasoning behind it, without explaining why that would have been. She left an open gap for me to fill it in with things that weren't true, like being your color is wrong, is bad, you don't deserve, you'll never have the best things. She left that gap open. And so when society came and told me some of these same things, or when boys would say to me, I remember a boy said to me, I don't care how pretty you are, I'd never date you, you're not light. And my defense mechanism was like, well, yay for me, because I'd never date you because you're not cute, we're on the same level. But I was crushed.
Yeah.
I was crushed. And so understanding, where I've come from and how I've had to rebuild this woman, I feel like there's so many little Shelleys out there who are trying to fill in the gap at 30, 40, 50. And for me, how I live and pour back and give to my community is, I want to see you. And part of that is my books. Part of that are my conferences. Part of that is my smile. Part of that is me just hugging you. I've had women cry on my shoulders because, oh girl, I'm getting emotional, because they've never been secure in a hug, because every time they were hugged, it came with something else. We'll just leave it like that. So they've never had a pure hug. The work is too deep. The work is too much, Dr. Kortni. I don't have time to sit back. It's women who need to be set free. It's women who are broken, who are hurting, who don't understand. God has purposed me to give that heart, that light, that love, that hug to them. I don't have time to play games. Somebody's heart is at stake.
Yeah, well, I love the fact that you talked about the power of the hug, right? Because and it also speaks to the value of allowing people to be seen, um, having empathy, and then also when someone giving them an opportunity to be seen is so important in terms of actually actively listening to find out who they are, because I
Absolutely.
think the worst thing can happen is human beings that we can go into meeting someone with already this preconceived dynamic,
Mm-hmm.
opposed to being open and curious to get to know
Mm-hmm.
who we're talking to, and then getting to know who we're talking to allows us to get to know more and more their story.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
so I just love what you shared. It is interesting
Thank
because
you.
as you're talking, you mentioned so many powerful things in terms of talking about colorism and what that looks like. And for listeners who are listening all throughout the world, I love that Shelley has shared elements of that in terms of our talk. But you also talked about loving yourself. And it's interesting because it's given me more insight, which I'm curious to now know about this in terms of your words, in terms of your book. You talked about three words, the power of I love you.
Yes.
And so just hearing that now makes me think about how powerful. So why is clearly, we understand I love you is a powerful thing, right?
So
But why
powerful.
is it so powerful as it relates to self?
Because taking it back to that little girl, the outside is not going to love you. The outside is going to be fickle with you, or the outside is going to love you as long as you're in your 20s. The outside is going to love you if you wear a size 8. And I don't know, that might be too big now. I don't know. But the
Yeah.
outside is going to love superficial things. It's important for me to find the things that outlast those superficial things. It's important for me to find who I am so that when the world or people attack, I can fall back and say, I love you, Shelley. And girl, I love your smile. I need
Love it.
comfort in something. And I think that's what a lot of us are missing. We're trying to fill that void, and we haven't gotten a chance to know us. So when the world is on my shoulder, when there's too much going on, when I feel like I'm going to explode, I know for me, relaxation in my mind, I can step away for 30 minutes and it'll give me a sense of relaxation. And that relaxation allows me to come back to myself and go, it's not that bad, Shelley. I know it hurts right now, Shelley, but I love you. No matter what happens in life, even if no one else is loving you today, just know it's okay to hurt. It was painful, but I love you and you're doing the best you can. And that's okay.
I love that. I love that, Shelley. It's interesting. I mentioned this scholar quite a bit, and her name is Dr. Christian Niff. She's written amazing books. She's one of the leading scholars in self compassion, and she's written a book called Fierce Self Compassion. It's her latest book that's out. And for those of you who are listening, you can certainly go onto my website to purchase her book as well as Shelley's book as well. And I love what you're sharing, Shelley, because you talked about how you're talking to yourself. And so
Yes.
Dr. Niff talks about the value of self-compassion and she has an exercise about being your own best friend. I like to say being your own bestie. And so what I love what you're doing and what you're sharing and in your practices is the fact that it's about how we speak to ourselves,
Yes.
right? Like
Absolutely.
and it's
Absolutely.
interesting,
Your
giving, yeah,
power is verbal. And if we could understand that, why do you think that we're growing up so broken? Because somebody took their power and misused it in our lives, whether it was on accident, because sometimes people hurt us accidentally. It's life. It happens. People hurt us because they speak to us the way they were trained. It happens. But the problem is we took it and we never reversed it. We never learned how to go, you know what? what you said to me was verbally harmful. And so I'm going to have to separate myself from this right now. And I don't give you the permission to speak to me like that, because those words harm who I am and who I'm developing to be. We have to learn how to find our voice. We're literally in a panic to stand up for ourselves. We will let someone tear us down, talk to us crazy, and we will turn around and do that to ourselves. Sometimes you got to look at yourself and go, enough is enough. I don't even allow you to talk to me that way anymore. You're going to have to get your mouth correct, and you're going to have to learn how to speak to me with that compassion, with that love. Tell me the truth, absolutely, but you need to end this thing with, but you're still all right.
Yeah, well, it's interesting about the truth when someone tells me, well, I'm just being real. Well, the interesting
No,
we're
not talking about them folks.
Yeah,
Them, they, no, not them.
No, because the interesting part is that life is about, and it's interesting because I talked about this in a previous podcast, and I literally just talked about this in a past interview with an incredible psychotherapist, and we talked about really the value, the superpower in being empathetic. And when you come in a conversation with a heightened level of empathy, right, you're coming in with love.
Yes.
But if the person who's coming in is a hurt individual, and and they're coming in with that level of that, then it's possibly, that whole saying, hurt people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I love what you're sharing, and because it speaks to so much of the value in terms of being a best friend to you, and also setting boundaries.
Absolutely.
And the importance,
I had to learn that.
And the importance of boundaries. And then also sharing with individuals that, that may, we're talking to people that may speak with a level of toxicity, right? But it's letting them understand that is that's not something that I am going to entertain, or, and so I love what you're sharing in terms of the fact of you're giving people permission who may ordinarily think, some of the individuals that may think, what, oh, well, it's okay, I'll just listen to that. But it's not okay if it's hurting you.
It's not okay. It's not okay if you leave and you're burdened emotionally. It's not okay if you lay down that night and you're still thinking about the harm of those words, and it's breaking your heart. It's not okay. I love what my pastor said. And he said, don't judge people's moments until you've had an opportunity to understand the journey of those moments. Meaning, yes, so many, like you said, hurt people. But when we learn how to come into a situation with empathy and not judge you off of your hurt, but look at the situation in your humanity, then I'm able to bring myself down a bit and see you for who you are.
Absolutely.
The woman you are, the man that you are. And I'm able to take off those glasses, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. That wants to just be like, and go, you know what? I understand. I apologize. It allows us the opportunity to connect with our fellow man. And I think a lot of times we move so much, we're going so much, we miss the opportunity to just connect. I'll say it again. It's just so important to me that I see you.
Yeah.
That's important. The most important thing in my work. Absolutely. I want to see you. Absolutely. And if I can do that, if I can see each woman that God brings into my life, I feel like I've done what you called me to do.
Well, I will say this. I hate this part of the conversation. I say this all the time. This is Dr. Kortni wrapping it up. I say this all the time. I know listeners, she says this all the time, but I hate this part because I'm wrapping it up. but because it's so powerful, because I want to thank you so much
Oh,
for giving us an
thank you.
opportunity in terms of hearing so many great perspectives as relates to your book and allowing more people in this world to feel seen. But before we wrap up though, Shelley, I have two questions for you.
Yes,
One
ma'am.
question is a question I ask every single person that is on the Kourting Happiness podcast. And we're going to end with that question. But before we do, I want to make sure that the people who are listening are saying, I want to hear more about all things Shelley. Where can they find you?
You can absolutely find me on my website, which is www.shelleymechette.com. On there, you can download a free ebook, 5 Daily Happiness Habits, to put you in that position of that inner happiness that's yours. You can also follow me on Instagram at Shelley Meche'tte. I like to keep things simple. And I am now on TikTok, y'all. Get you some inspirational words. Shelley Meche'tte.
Shelley Meche'tte.
I like to keep it simple.
So Shelley, before we go, tell us this, because again, I ask every single guest that is in the Kourting Happiness studio this question. And because, Kourting Happiness is all about how you commit to your well-being, how do you commit to your happiness. And so I would love for you to share, what do you do to make sure you're committing to your happiness, committing to your well-being?
Yes. This is probably one of the hardest things that I had to learn to do, but it actually has opened up the door to a lot of peace in my life. And I'm committed to saying no. I'm committed. And everything in my life is not no, but it used to be, I wanted to make sure that, I don't want you to think that I'm being selfish, or I want to make sure that I'm doing this. And I want to be that one who makes sure that I'm supporting. No, I support you, but I need to support me. And so now I don't just answer yes. Let me take a minute. Let me think about it. Let me check my schedule. And if it lines up, then the answer is yes. But I am so much more comfortable now saying, no, that doesn't fit into my day, or no, I won't be able to assist, but let me see if I can do something else that may be able to help you get what you need done. So I'm committed to standing on my no for my own personal happiness and contentment.
I love that, in terms of the fact of, in terms of the no, the power of no, and also the value of that, in terms of making sure that really you're doing it, that things are aligned with what you're doing, opposed to just saying yes, 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 and feeling that level of depletion. Well, I will say this, I am grateful you said yes to us. Right? I am grateful.
I could not pass this up, honey. When Happiness podcast, I was like, hello.
Well, I am so grateful that you were here with us and that you said yes to the Kourting Happiness podcast. Shelley, you are extraordinary. Continue to inspire the world. Thank you so much for all your time and your wisdom today.
Thank you, Dr. Kortni. You are amazing.
You can learn more about where to follow Shelley Meche'tte by visiting her episode page on the Kourting Happiness podcast website at drkortnialston.com/podcast/episode 57. And you can purchase her book in the Kourting Happiness library. Let's continue this conversation online. Email us at podcast@drkortnialston.com. That's podcast@drkortnialston.com. Join us on Instagram at Kourting Happiness. Don't forget, that's Kourting with a K. Also, I hope you join our private Facebook community. You can find us at Kourting Happiness Podcast Community. Our private Facebook group is a safe haven to share, meet more people looking to build positive relationships, focus on well-being, and create a happier life. Now, are you ready to spread happiness? We hope you subscribe and share this podcast with your family, friends, coworkers, and all the important people in your world. We release a new episode every Thursday. Congratulations on your continued commitment to your Kourting Happiness journey. Thank you so much for listening. listening. We want you to be well, be happier, and be kinder to yourself. We can't wait to see you next week.